I was looking on my favorite website, which there is an app for as well, trying to find free mowers, blowers, or trimmers I could pick up, fix, and film when I found this one. Luckily, it was only 3 miles from me and it was recently posted, so I was able to pick it up without a lot of drama. However, when I tried to push it to my car, I realized very quickly what the first problem was. It's almost impossible to push around. I guess I don't have to ask why they got rid of it. In today's video, we're going to be looking at this Troy-Bilt branded lawnmower, and the problem is that it's really difficult to push around. Of course, I shouldn't have to say this, but this would make it really tough to use, especially if it was a really hot summer's day. So before I do anything else with it, I want to get this problem solved, then I can worry about the rest of the mower. Now, I'm going to try and repair this mower, but yours might be different, so this might not work on yours. So if things are not working out for you, like in the video, please ask about it. I'll be glad to answer your questions. Now, we're only going to be focusing on the wheels right now, but at some point in the video, I will try to figure out if the engine has the ability to start and run. That way we'll know whether or not it's even worth trying to fix the rest of the mower, or if I just wasted all my time messing with the wheels. I don't get to see these Troy-Bilt XPs very often, and there's a good reason why. They're simply too expensive, and at the time, there were much better offerings from other brands. But I will say this, when I do find these XPs and inspect their build quality, I do think that they're worth every penny for them. However, you still have to take care of them, otherwise you'll end up with something like this. Now, I can't show you on screen just how much effort I'm using to move this mower around, so the next best thing is to use my force gauge. If you've seen my recent videos, you know that I use this on my mowers just to give you an idea of how tough something is to move, whether it's pushing or in this case pulling on it. After turning it on, I'll then choose the units I want to measure in, and in this case, I'm going to choose kilograms, but you could also use pounds if you wanted to. Then I'll just hook onto the edge of the mowing deck and give it a very gentle pull to get a reading. Of course, you can get behind the mower and push on it if you wanted to, but I prefer using it this way only because it's easier to film. I'm also going to press the peak button to record the max reading, that way I don't have to look at the gauge and see what the highest reading was. So as you can see, the highest reading according to the meter was more than 5 kilograms, which is more than 11 pounds. What that means is that I'm having to pull more than 11 pounds on the meter to get the mower to move. But is that a lot? And the answer is, you bet it is. For a mower like this one, which I would categorize as a medium weight mower with self-propel, I would expect a reading of something between 2 and 2.5 kilograms. That means this mower takes more than 5 times the normal effort when compared to a mower that's working like it should be. And of course, the most likely reason would be an issue with the wheels, but there's more to it on this mower than just that. So as you can see, it looks as though the front tire is rubbing on the arm that connects the front axle to the rear one. Now to fix this, I could just move the arm to the inside of the bracket instead of the outside, but that won't fix the root cause, which is not the fault of the arm. Hopefully you can see this, but the front wheels are toed out, meaning the front wheels are not pointed straight, but instead out and away. Now normally this wouldn't be a big deal for most mowers, but since the connecting arm is in the way, the tire is now making contact with it and causing a lot of drag. Now for a better visual, I'm going to put my screwdriver in line with the axle and then put a line across the screen parallel with the front of the mower. So as you can see, they should be parallel with each other, but they aren't, so all we have to do is figure out how to realign the front axle and service the rest of the wheels. Now the drive wheels spin just like they should, but of course they're never going to freewheel like the front ones do, but hopefully after cleaning and lubricating them, they'll spin a lot better. After getting the right front wheel off the mower, I'm going to check the axle's alignment. Unfortunately, I'm not sure where my square is at, so I'll just have to use this blade instead. So as you can see, if I put the blade close to the axle, the gap between them should be consistent, but it's wider at the bottom and closer as we move away from it. Now from what I can tell, the bracket is the part that's bent, so how do we bend it back? Easy, just use a socket and some leverage and bend it back. Now this is not safe to do, so I would find a better way to do this. After bending it back, I'll then put the blade back on and the bracket, and as you can see, the gap between them is now very consistent. So it looks like this method works very well, which means I'll be doing the same thing on the bad wheel and we should be good to go. Of course, before I put the wheel back on, I'll give the axle a cleaning and apply a generous amount of lube on it. That way it'll keep it working well for the rest of the mowing season, if not longer. Now you don't need to do this type of cleaning very often, but I would almost bet this was the first time it's ever been done to this mower in the 15 years that it's been in use. And of course, if I give the wheel a spin, you can see just how much better it spins in comparison to before the cleaning. Next, I'll move on to the other front wheel, and hopefully it goes just as smoothly as the other one. This does bring up a problem though. If the bracket got bent before and we just bend it back, won't it eventually have the same issue later on again? And the answer is yes, but it took 15 years of service before it got this bad, so will it take another 15 years before it happens again? Now the answer is I'm not sure, but for the time being, it's going to work for quite some time though. And besides that, you never know if the damage to the brackets was normal or if the user was causing the brackets to bend because they were using the mower incorrectly. Basically, they were hitting the wheels against a porch or even a tree while using it. After getting the wheel back on the mower and giving it a good spin, you can see that the front wheel is no longer making contact with the connecting arm and it's now able to spin freely just like it should be. And I have no doubt that this was 90% of the problem with this mower, and it should be now a lot easier to push around. All we have to do now is to service the rear drive wheels, which shouldn't be too hard, and then get it back on the ground and see if all this work has paid off. Now there is of course one extra part we have to deal with when it comes to the drive wheels, and that is the drive gear and how it works. Now on some mowers, they might have a spring-loaded key that acts like a ratchet, while on others, there's a pin that moves through the drive axle to bypass the drive. Now this one is the pin style, and even though I've never seen a maintenance schedule in the owner's manual to service it, I'm going to lube it anyway. So as you can see, if I turn the gear one way, it'll spin freely, but if I turn it the other way, it will engage the drive axle and spin the transmission. Now by far the easiest way to lubricate the pin is to spray lube on the back side of the gear while spinning it. Now it's not the best way to do it, but it does work very well. Now the other way is to of course remove the bolt holding the drive gear and carefully removing it, being extra careful not to lose the pin like I did. Fortunately, I was ready for it to fall, but if I wasn't, I would have never known it was even there. And if you do happen to put the gear back onto the axle without the pin, the wheels will never spin while activating the self-propel. So if you ever need to bypass the drive on your mower to make it easier to push when the drive does fail, you don't need to remove the entire transmission, just part of it. And of course, when you put the gear back on, you'll still need to be very careful making sure the pin doesn't fall back out. After that, just lube up the wheels, replace the nut, and then do the same job on the other drive wheel. Now, if you recall, the reading we got the last time was a bit over 5 kilograms, which has to be the highest reading I've ever gotten. And of course, our target is somewhere between 2 and 2.5 kilograms, so let's hope we can get within that range, or better yet, beat it. And with a reading of only 1.9 kilograms, we certainly beat that range, which means all that work we just did paid off. Now all we have to do now is figure out if the engine will start and run after we prime it with some fuel. So the good news is that it started and ran and it sounded really good, but the bad news is that the pull rope wanted to be yanked out of my hands when I was trying to start it. Now this is the important part. Does it happen every time I pull on it, or does it only do it when there's some fuel in the engine? So it seems like it only does it when there's some fuel in the engine. Now, if you've been watching my videos for a while, you know what that means and even how to fix it, but if you don't know, well, I guess you'll have to wait until the next video when I try to fix it. Well, it looks like we got our work cut out for this one. We just figured out why it was so tough to push around. Next, we'll have to try to figure out what's causing the engine to pull back on the rope, and since this mower has a key start, well, I want to see if we can get it working because we all can't be 25 years old forever. Of course, I still don't know if the self-propel is working, but we'll find out when we get there. I still have to wonder why they gave this mower away because most times it'll have more than one problem, so hopefully this one's not the same way. So my question is, would you have given away a mower if the only issue that it ever had was that it was really tough to push around? And I mean really tough too. To be honest, after having pushed this one around, I would understand your choice. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.